Happy and his pal, a robotic stowaway named Half, are on a mission. Find whoever stole Half's missing pieces and get those pieces back. After promising each other that they'd pursue even the faintest of clues to the furthest of corners, our spacefaring duo have bounced from one adventure to the next, hoping that eventually they'll end up in the right place at the right time. Their next stop, a tiny little oasis on a giant planet of star-spewing volcanoes, a place where robots melt and humans bake, and magic-imbued stars rule the land, or so they think. Happy Astronaut is perfect for readers of all ages, filled with action, humor, and heart. This debut issue will have many exciting covers to choose from, including a blank sketch cover variant to commission your very own cover.
Recorded live from the secret underground lair of Crimson Cowl Comics and Collectibles, this is the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast.
The following issues may contain spoilers. It's time to dine on our own guts. I'm Anthony.
I'm David.
I'm Kirby.
I'm Katie.
I'm Troy.
And I'm Eric.
Welcome to issue number 272 of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast. Each and every week, we meet here to talk about comic books. On this particular episode, we'll be talking about the one-shot special of BRZRKR, Poetry of Madness. We talked about the first 12 issues in our previous episodes as a club discussion. They surprised us with the one-shot, so we decided, hey, let's talk about that too. Then we're going to do a short round of weekly reviews. That's where we go back and forth, talk about the books that we've been reading, whether they're new, whether they're old. We're going to talk about them there. Then we're going to do an extra-sized preview covering the Marvel catalog, covering the DC catalog, as well as the giant independent previews catalog, talking about all the stuff from that's coming out in October. So the August previews for October 2023 and beyond. So that is the setup for our show. We will roll right into it here with BRZRKR, Poetry of Madness. I will start it off with a synopsis. A sea of gore and devastation awaits B, as though a fateful chance encounter safeguards the advanced and ancient realm of Atlantis as its unstoppable protector. But a sickly king serves as a symbol for the rot inside, and the security and bliss created through B's violence is shallow. The cracks created by a secret cult might spell a monstrous end for the legendary city, one beyond even B's ability to save. Renowned filmmaker and record-shattering comic creator Keanu Reeves joins acclaimed writer and artist Steve Skroce from Doctor Strange for a one-shot special that fans of Lovecraftian horror would be mad to miss. This comic is created by Keanu Reeves, Steve Skroce, Dave Stewart, Ed Dukeshire. So here we go. This is a bonus issue of BRZRKR, a one-shot that I feel stands alone for the most part. I think if anybody just happened to see this, if they missed the first 12 issues of BRZRKR, I think this would be a good issue to jump on just to kind of get a taste. Definitely of the violence and the gore, stuff that we definitely saw in the main series. But this issue, with it being a solo one-shot, I think it definitely, takes advantage of just being, just nonstop action and war. We have our story of B kind of being the protector for the city. We'll get into that, and then our threats and our monsters and the tragedy, everything that we'd experienced through the BRZRKR series, I think is equally represented in this one-shot tale. So that is just kind of an overall synopsis there for anybody who hasn't checked it out. We're going to dive into it here. Katie, if you want to kick us off here on thoughts on BRZRKR, Poetry of Madness.
Yeah, happily. All right. So this, as Anthony said, is a one-shot coming off the heels of a 12-issue series. Was excellent series. Go ahead and pick that up if you haven't. And it takes place in B, or his birth name, Unum's past, where he is the protector of the lost city of Atlantis. This drew me in right away because as soon as I saw that opening page with Atlantis, I'm like, this is my kind of thing. You know, it's got that mythic element to it. He's wearing armor that's very reminiscent of like armor from I think one of the Dracula movies. This was such a cool issue. It expanded on the lore of the Berserker, and oh man, it was just, I really liked this one a lot. So he is the protector of the city of Atlantis, where he's treated basically as a demigod, but he still does his best to be a man of the people. And we find out that he rescued the king Azes when the king was a little boy. His family had been murdered in a coup d'etat, and he has kind of acted as an advisor for this Azes as he's grown up now into a young man. But unfortunately, there have been some other influences on the king as well, and they are a little more sinister. So one of them appears to be a high priest or a wizard of a group that has some nefarious ideas, and they end up, like we saw in the larger Berserker series, trying to harness Bee's power for themselves to create immortality and bring about the end of the present world, but the beginning of their world by summoning the god Cthulhu. Yeah, this was unexpected. I knew they were going to do something, but then they captured him in this Venus flytrap magic thing. That was crazy. And you know, throughout the whole thing, the king is almost apologetic. He's like, "Hey, man, I'm really sorry, but you know, this is the way it's got to be." And you can see that he's been manipulated into this. All right, and that's when the action kicks in. So B, of course, breaks out and he starts kicking butt. And then all of a sudden, this giant squid Cthulhu monster comes down from the sky and kind of begins the cataclysm that's going to destroy Atlantis, keeping with that mythos there. And then, so B and several other people, including the high priest, and then B's kind of, I don't want to say like office assistant, but attendant, who I don't think is ever named in the book, by the way, get eaten by the Cthulhu monster, and then they take the Cthulhu monster out from the inside. And then, you know, that's kind of the end of B's time in Atlantis. And I thought there was a really poignant line towards the end of the book where the assistant to be the young lady who's narrating this book says, you know, it was clear to him that like there was a shift coming, and it had been like Atlantis had been his resting place. It had been a home for him, but that had changed. That was no longer. Yep, that's her. I do they name her? I just might not recall. But anyway, and then that's how we see B going back onto the road again at the end of this book. I really liked this. This was a great extension to Berserker because, as we know from reading the book, he's been alive for thousands of years. He's practically immortal. We see him regenerating throughout this book. And this kind of fills in a little bit of his story and why even to the present day there's a cult of people that are after him, and his connection to the divine and the great beyond. A lot of great action. I love the idea of two basically godlike level powers fighting each other. That was pretty interesting. I will say, so oftentimes like a celebrity associated comic book doesn't always resonate to me. Sometimes it's clearly like you're just doing this to do this. But I think Keanu Reeves, who shares his likeness with Unum, actually genuinely has enjoyed this, who cares about it and cares about making good comic books. This was really fun. This was a treat. I will say it comes in at $9, but I do feel like I got my values worth for that. If you haven't read the other Berserker series, you'd probably still be able to pick this up and follow it because it's a self-contained story way outside of that path. I'd like to see B put maybe for some other one-shots into other mythological settings. Like I would love to see him like say riding with the Wild Hunt, or King Arthur's court at Camelot, or you know, the options are wide open. Put him in other historical settings, other mythological settings. I think that could be really, really cool and be done in a tasteful way. But I enjoyed it. What's everyone else think?
Yeah, I would definitely agree as well. Once again, especially with the with how inviting it was to if it's somebody's first taste of Berserker.
Yeah.
What I take a lot of the series from the series that we read I love all the action and the gore and just seeing
Yeah.
fists going through bodies, chest cavities, and skulls, and like all that kind of stuff. That just on paper is probably going to be an easy sell, but they definitely back it up with some good emotion and good story and everything.
Mhm.
And I thought this was just a great representation of the series that we read, and yeah, and same thing with the Cthulhu monster. That was just a fun, bonus bonus of just seeing that pop up out of nowhere, and
Yeah,
yeah,
that was
I
unexpected.
I had a lot of fun with it, and yeah, great comic. Jump over to Kirby. Thoughts on this issue?
First off, I love the book.
Nice.
I look at it as a parody of Berserker.
Oh,
I
sure.
don't I do not look at it as a continuation of our storyline or a prequel or anything like that.
Hmm.
I had some issues with I Atlantis looked beautiful in the beginning.
Yeah.
Once it got to the people, I felt it was lacking. I did not
Okay.
feel Atlantean style with our characters at all. Uh, some of the characters, their outfits were partially kind of Atlantean, and then
Hmm.
other half wasn't. Uh, and like you mentioned, Katie, I feel that Unut is just basically Vlad the Impaler in here.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
the gore and everything, his gore in the Berserker series was more realistically represented. This
Hmm.
to me would fit more in the barbaric storyline. If you know,
Oh, sure.
I love the barbaric series where the axe eats the blood and it's a talking axe and can do all that stuff.
Hmm.
I mean that this felt more like a barbaric series than the Berserker series to me. I would when I started reading this, I was all excited because the way it was laid out with the basically thought balloons just basically giving us all the details of the
Hmm.
storyline. I was all excited thinking they took the example of She, the Way of the Warrior, and went
Oh,
that route. No words, just basically giving us the history throughout the book. I think if they would have done that and got a little more serious with the battle scenes and stuff, I think this would have been an incredible book.
hmm.
But other than that, I enjoyed it. And I'm sorry, you can kill Beast and all that stuff, but does he really need to rip apart and destroy elephants? Unless someone's
Yeah.
an elephant will not trample you. He will not attack you unless you force him to attack. So why Unut has to go and rip elephants apart, that kind of irritated me.
That's a really good point.
I
But other than that, I did enjoy it.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think
No, that's a good point.
But
I
I
think
just from
there's an
going
elephant back. I think there's an elephant backstory one shot that we needed a little more information on. That's probably going to find out that the elephant's done some shady things and probably deserved it. So just
I like your idea of it being like a parody or in the style of Berserker, because that actually opens up the ability to create way more stories without having to stick to the lore that we've read. I like that idea a lot. Thank you. I hadn't considered that.
then you
And
can play with all the different fables and everything
Hmm.
and just have fun with it. But
back
yeah,
to the elephants, it is possible that that was just put in there to set up some future thing, like where the
Probably.
elephants get some revenge, because elephants never forget.
Hmm.
So,
I could see it.
it could be a future thing right there.
a story, a story just to put in the trunk for another day. It's all good. I don't know. I couldn't think of anything else.
But
It'll work.
after 12 issues of Berserker, just going to this, it was just it felt like a completely different thing to me. So
That's true. Yeah.
So we heard some other voices as we introed this episode here, and one of those voices just raised his hand because I got the alert for it. So Troy, you're here because we just talked to you and your creative crew for Jungle Drama, a book that we will preview later on in this episode. But people who are listening and watching this right now, can look to the episode that is before this and see a whole interview with you and your crew. But you decided to stick around here, and I kind of wanted to ask you your thoughts on just whatever we just talked about Berserker. You've probably listened to us talk about Berserker in the normal club. Do you have any thoughts
Right.
on this at all?
Well, after a few episodes ago, every time Kirby talks, I'm expecting him to yell, "This is pornography." So I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't get any of that just now with this assessment of Berserker.
There
This
is
is pornography is what I
This
need.
is blood porn.
Yeah, it really is.
there is mention and a small scene of an orgy that takes place while all this stuff is happening, but it's not done to an extreme enough to allow him to shout his catchphrase now. So.
Oh, I did have one other thing. I was
Yeah.
kind of disappointed that we were introduced to this this bone sword,
Yeah,
but there's nothing about it in the future in the
I agree.
actual the Berserker run. It's like I would expect over all these years that he would have collected a few unique items that he would have kept with him.
Yeah, I agree. I felt like that sword was going to be way bigger than it ended up being.
That's
Just
one-
kind of a weird, just sort of a weird note about the artist on it. So he did some Amazing Spider-Man towards the very end of the very first run of Spider-Man, like I know like they ended volume 1 like at 440 or something like that.
Sure.
So he did some like between 400 and the end of it, and it was really, really good. And I remember trying to find, when the internet was first coming out, what's he doing now, and looking him up, and it turns out that he was doing what do you call it? Shoot, what's it called? I'm drawing a blank. Where like you work for a movie and you draw like a comic book version of the movie.
Green screening?
Storyboard.
Storyboards.
He did storyboarding for The Matrix.
Oh,
So he's been working with
Go
Keanu
figure.
Reeves for an extremely long time.
no way.
And I don't know
Cool.
if Troy would have an answer to this. Talking about storyboards, like you think, like what's interesting about that as a career is that some people may do storyboarding, at night. Maybe they'll do storyboarding at noon. Sometimes just get a morning board in, just in right away at the start of the day. It's real interesting that anytime when
Kirby, I'm gonna need you to throw out your catchphrase at Anthony Ray.
that may be referencing something that wasn't on air, but I just had to take that shot. So, anyways, David, listening to us talk about this, maybe you caught an issue or two throughout the whenever you would guest starred in on the show, but here we are talking about this one. Any kind of thoughts that you kind of took from what we just showed and talked about at all?
Not really, other than it's kind of amazing because I do recall when this was first coming out, just looking at it and seeing Keanu Reeves' name attached to a comic book, just seeing the character and the resemblance there, and just thinking that it's gone on to this point where we're now getting these other side stories. It's just kind of funny to think back, to when it was first coming out and just not knowing really what to expect. And I think there was just the fascination of, how is this going to be? But no, it's not something that I had picked up any of the issues. I am glad that those who have been reading it have been enjoying it, and that it's still worthy of being talked about after this time.
All right, and then as I was talking about the extra voices you heard, I was going to cut to him, but he had sent me a message. Eric Marshall had to jump out for some dinner, but Eric Marshall, once again, going back to that episode, is the tremendous artist on Jungle Drama with Troy. So check out that episode with those two as well as Danny Harrell. But I just want to acknowledge that because we won't hear his voice in here when we cut to him right now. so he's not here. So, anyways, any other final thoughts on Berserker Poetry of Madness before we move on to the next?
Nope.
Pretty good. All right, so yep, that'll do it for this one shot here. It was fun to kind of revisit it as an extended club pick, basically. And a preview of upcoming club discussions: Marvel Age number 1000, a giant one shot, Marvel Unleashed. That's a 4-issue miniseries with the Marvel pets. Speaking of Marvel pets, there's a one shot for Alligator Loki. We're going to talk about that. And then continue on with this second arc of Once Upon a Time at the End of the World number 8. And then any future club discussions are all decided based on our previews, which we will cover at the end of the show. If we find out multiple people are picking up the same issue, we may usher it into a club discussion. So that is going to do it for this segment. Let's jump over to the weekly reviews. Welcome to the weekly reviews. We're going to kick it off first with David. What you got?
I've got Star Trek Early Voyages number 2. So this is like from all the way back in '97. But just little background here. So we currently, have these Star Trek shows out. One of them is Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which I've been enjoying quite a bit. And that follows some of the adventures of Captain Christopher Pike and his crew of the Enterprise pre-Kirk. And Marvel had put out a comic on some of those back in '97. And that was the first time that I could remember, and there might be some other stuff in there, but that was really the first time that I could remember anything besides the original Star Trek pilot, and then the reused footage from that had featured Captain Pike and his crew. His first officer, number 1, and an early version of Spock that was not as serious and emotionless as the one that we got in the final version of the original series, and so on. So '97, I picked up the first issue, and from there I did not continue reading it because I went into the Army. And I cut back quite a bit on reading. So I'd go on from '97 until now, and I finally read the second issue of Star Trek Early Voyages. Again, this was put out by Marvel Comics. They kind of listed it on there, if you can see it, as Marvel Paramount Comics. And this features so unlike the show that we have now, Strange New Worlds, which has a couple characters from the original pilot, but then is they have a lot of new characters. They have some characters that you wouldn't expect to have shown up until the original series era. But this comic had more of the characters that we saw in that original pilot, and then they also add their own characters. There's a few more alien type characters that look more alien, which due to budget and things like that back in the time that the original episode was filmed. You didn't have all that. The closest you got was Spock with his pointy ears and his funky eyebrows. So they have some of that stuff, and they show how this crew goes up against some Klingons, and it's just kind of an interesting take on characters that never got used. And frankly, it also takes place in a different time than Star Trek Strange New Worlds. So, you could read this and kind of almost imagine that this stuff, that these stories actually still happen. There's nothing that I've read so far that contradict that. So if you're looking through the back issues and you come across this and you're a fan of Star Trek, particularly Captain Pike's crew in Strange New Worlds, this might be something worth reading, because it's going to give you a little bit more back story on some of those characters, and introduce you to a lot of other interesting characters. I should just note, that this was at the time written by writers. I don't even recognize some of these names anymore. Ian Edginton and Dan Abnett. It's probably because we all know that you haven't made it in comics really until your name's been butchered on this show.
That's right.
So penciler Patrick Zurcher, inker Greg Adams, colorist Marie Javins, lettering Janice Chiang, editor Bobby Chase, and of course editor-in-chief Bob Harris, who was in all the Marvel comics of the time.
Well, I want to point out that Dan Abnett would go on to reboot and kind of do the modern day Guardians of the Galaxy that we would come to know. So yeah, there was a couple other recognizable ones too, but yeah, that's interesting to kind of go back in time and see that there. So, all right, cool. We will jump over to Kirby. What you got for us?
I checked out Fire and Ice #1.
Ooh.
This is by Dynamite. We got Bill Willingham is the writer, Leonardo Manco is the artist, Taylor Esposito is the letterer, and Matt Idelson is the editor. The story name is Good in Life. Now, I fell in love with Fire and Ice animated movie back in my teenage days. Granted, most of the times I seen it, I was on a possible hallucinogenic. But I could have swore there was no real talk in that movie. So this book, I have to rewatch it before I read the second one. When I got this, I can't remember what the description said. I thought it was a prequel, but this would have to be after the fact, after the original movie, I would assume, after reading it, since our parties in here, they talk quite a bit. It's almost like present day English going on between the tribes, and it's kind of confusing to me in that aspect. I really enjoyed this book. I think it had more, I don't know how to say it, but more to grab you with all the storylines and stuff in this than you get from the movie itself. The movie, I felt, made you think more about the characters and everything. But it was interesting in seeing the different packs and how they worked. You had your, as far as the caveman lore goes, you had Neanderthal and I can't think of the other name, but one had the bigger skull, the smaller brain style. One had the bigger brain style, smaller skull. And this has that. You have your barbaric type clans in here and stuff, and they're fighting for territory, trying to stay alive. I didn't really get much beast stuff out of here other than our girls that have their cats with them. They're Black Panther, tiger type. And that was depicted from what I remember in the early animated movie. The girl had the tiger, well, the panther with her. I really liked it. I'm interested in where it's going to go. I just need to go back and look to find out where this lays in the lore of the whole history and everything. But with it being so verbal, it kind of like just took me that this was different from what I remember. So I do have to fall back on all that. But other than that, they did a wonderful job. It's a great book for what it is. I just got to figure out where it lays in the whole storyline and everything. But I enjoyed it.
I'd be interested in hearing when you come back to see that movie years and years later if it holds up for you.
Yeah, I'm really curious how well it holds up. So
All right. We will jump over to Katie. What you got for us?
All right, this week I have The Witcher Ronin, published by Dark Horse Comics in partnership with CDPR. Um, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of setup on this. So the story is by Rafal Jaki, the art is by Hataya, letters are by Aditya Bidikar, and the cover art is by Jen Bartel. Here's the cover art once again. Okay, so this is taking the Witcher character from the video games, and basically saying, okay, if instead of being a Slavic Polish-based character, what if actually the Witcher had come out of Japan, as a samurai Ronin going and fighting monsters? Now, a little background: The Witcher is based off of Eastern European folklore. The author is Polish. CDPR is based in Poland. So you're going to, I guess, what am I thinking here? So to me, I guess I'm looking at the difference between cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation. A lot of times people will make characters look like they are using the Japanese aesthetic solely because it looks cool. And don't get me wrong, it does look cool, but the characters act basically like themselves, just in, like, they're just meant to look what a Western artist thinks looks Japanese. And I don't necessarily think anyone's trying to be malicious, but to me that does cross that line a little bit. This is different. This is like, okay, instead of taking this Polish character and dropping him in Japanese myths, it's saying, okay, but what if this character actually came from Japan? How would we imagine that? And I thought this book did a really good job of that. So, as per normal, Geralt of Rivia is our Witcher. He's wandering the countryside looking for work. He comes into a town, and people at the village inn are giving him a hard time, calling him names, and then he has a bit of a scuffle. But then, as he's leaving town, because he's like, yeah, I'm not staying here, I did not start off on the right foot, a farmer approaches him and says, hey, like, you're a Witcher, you are a monster hunter, I need your help. And he commissions him to do a job for him. There's these and something I thought that was cool is all of the monsters that Geralt ends up fighting are from Japanese folklore. So there's these little river creatures. They look kind of like frog people. And basically they have started attacking the village, which is not good. So they're like, Geralt, will you go and fight them? And he does. He goes and finds their hideout, but they are not alone. They are being guarded by a water guardian spirit who takes the form of a dragon. The dragon's really cool, so I'm going to try and find it for you. And basically, he says to this water guardian spirit, like, what's going on? I know these creatures, are not violent. They don't attack people very much. Oh, my blur is, unfortunately, my blur background's not picking that up. Anyway, these creatures don't attack people very much. And basically what we find out from the guardian is that the villagers didn't quite tell Geralt the whole truth. It turns out they were the ones attacking first because they want to drain the lake so that they can have more farmland and more space to live. And all these creatures want is basically to live as they have lived for centuries and be left alone, right? So Geralt goes back, hands them back their money, and basically says, you have a choice to make. You can either leave them alone, because all they're doing is defending themselves, or you can carry on as you will and face the consequences, but whatever you do, I'm not going to bail you out of it. And like a lot of things in The Witcher, there's no clear right or wrong answer. And a lot of times all of your options are kind of cruddy. Like there's no clear, oh, this is the right option, this is the wrong option, because no matter what, somebody's going to get hurt in this case. Now, I tend to side on the frog people side, but it's up to the reader. So then Geralt's on to his next village as his lot in life as he wanders the path. And throughout the book and throughout his journey, we see a beautiful, kind of youthful looking young lady. And it's winter time, and when she appears, everything turns to ice and there's horrible snowstorms. And I thought I knew who that character was right away. There's going to be a twist later on that actually got me, and in hindsight I should have seen it, but I didn't. So all right, he's on to the next tasks, and he goes to a remote hut and basically says, hey, I'm looking for information on this woman have you seen her? And the owner of the hut says, yes, I have, but before I tell you, you've got to do something for me first. And it turns out that this man used to go and visit his wife's grave every single day, but a monster has taken root. And the monster is called a Tenge or a Tengu. Let me grab the correct name. The Tengu, it is called a Tengu. So it's kind of like a chimera of a human and a creature with wings. The Tengu is a peaceful creature. So Geralt's like, okay, what's going on here? So he goes up the steps of the temple to the grave site, and he starts fighting with this Tengu, who shares a lot of design traits with some of the characters in The Witcher 3. And he and the Tengu fight, and then we don't see the clear resolve, but we see Geralt at the end. Well, actually, that's not true. We see a resolve, but it's not the resolve that you would expect. I don't want to give that a big spoiler, but we find out that once again, that Geralt has not been given the complete story, and that this man's wife did not have an easy time in life, and he was not a good husband to her. He was very violent, and the tale that he had spun Geralt's like, basically like, I know that's BS. Now, are you going to tell me the real story? And then we find out that the man's like, yeah, well, you don't understand. She was following me. She's judging me. I didn't mean to hurt her. It just happened. And Geralt's like, you know what? Nothing you say can convince me to ease your guilt. Like, you can only like decide that yourself. And of course, the man takes offense because he is not a very self-aware person. And Geralt basically says, you know, the only reason I am sparing you because you're a total SOB, and you know, you admitted to killing your wife, and now you're harassing her in the afterlife. He's like, the only reason I'm not bothering you is because you have this information I need, and I'm being selfish about it. But Geralt tricks him just as he had been tricked. So, you know, reverse Uno card there. And the Tengu friend makes sure that the woman's soul will rest in peace. Geralt's on the path to our next adventure, where he's going to an onsen. And the owner of the onsen's like, please, brave Witcher, sir, Master Ronin, will you fight this monster for me? Right. And very reminiscent of another story in the Witcher catalog, actually probably one of the more famous ones. He has to stay overnight until a certain time and do all this preparation to try and catch this monster, which is very similar to the story with the Striga in The Last Witch, or The Last Wish, excuse me. We get some stereotypical Geralt in the hot spring scenes. It's kind of a running joke among CDPR that they feature Geralt in a bathtub, which is they're Europeans, so I guess they have different sensibilities than we do, but you don't see anything improper. And then overnight, he is fighting these creatures that are under the control of the owner of the onsen. She herself is a fey creature. And then, so what we thought were kind of like snow monkeys actually are giant monsters. Interesting battle, to say the least. And then, you know, that concludes, and Geralt is once again asking questions, being like, tell me where you can find this young woman. I know you've seen her. And he follows those instructions to a remote place in the forest, and the woman appears for him, and this is where the twist came in, right? And I thought that this woman was going to be his daughter Ciri, who has the power to travel through time and space, and there's actually even scenes of her in both the games and the books dealing with things in a wintry type setting. So I thought that was going to be her, but they did a switcheroo on me, and it's not. It's Aroden, King of the Wild Hunt. But they imagined, and Aroden's like Geralt's like big bad villain kind of throughout the whole story, and they turned Aroden from a very fearsome bad guy who's like 7 feet tall, wearing armor, like has a voice changer, and is very definitely male by canon, into a small fey lady who is way more than she seems and has these phenomenal powers that are almost on par with Ciri's. And then that's an example of, I feel like they took the original story and did a good job putting it into this setting and making it respectful and matching of Japanese mythological culture. The way they represent the Hounds of the Wild Hunt are kind of freaky too. They're like weird dog people. So it's a little spooky. What else? we get our first hint of a glance at Ciri, but we don't get to see her. And probably like one of the creepiest images is the Eridan puts on the mask of Eridan that we know from the video game, which is kind of like a skull mask, and that's spooky to see this thin, lithe lady put on this skull and crossbones mask and skull armor and fight the Witcher. That was wild. I did not expect that, and they did such a good job representing that while letting you know that this is still Eridan. This is just what Eridan looks like in this universe. They have a pretty epic fight that goes basically towards the end of the book, and because Eridan's just kind of a dramatic dude, dramatic person. He warps off into the distance and is like, haha, I'll see you again, Geralt of Rivia. Because of course there's going to be a part 2. This is only part 1. And then they did a pretty interesting way of bringing Yennefer into the book. So Yennefer in the video games and several of the Witcher short stories, her messenger is a raven or a crow. But that doesn't translate as well to this setting and this folklore. So actually they have a cat as her messenger. It's a cat with 2 tails, which has significance to the Japanese mythological canon. I love how they drew Yennefer in here. She's in this beautiful purple robe. I love it so much. It's my favorite color. And they're going to go and find Ciri in the next series, the next book in the series. And then there's some back matter that gives more information on the different creatures and monsters that we've seen in here and where they're coming from in real life folklore. So the name of the cat is called a forked cat in English, or it's in Japanese, it's Nekomata. And then the weird wild hunt snow people dogs are called snow childs, or in Japanese it's Yukinko. Apologize to everyone who speaks Japanese. I do not, but I'm doing my best. I really liked this book. I will say, if you are not familiar with the Witcher universe, you probably will not get a lot out of this book. It'll just be like, okay, another comic using Japanese style, and it looks really cool, but you will miss out a lot of the subtleties of why this is a cool story and a nice adaptation. I can't wait for volume 2 on the internet. I haven't yet found when that's releasing, but I'm really excited to get it. And if you have big bucks and more room on your shelf, you can get statues of Geralt and Ciri in the Ronin style from CDPR. I think they're like $75-ish. Go ahead and check. They're gorgeous. All of the CDPR statues are lovely. So if that's your thing, check it out. I will say, since season 3 of Netflix just finished airing and a lot of people are jumping off as Henry Cavill's leaving, if you do want more of The Witcher, definitely play the games, read the books, and if you're into comics, give the Witcher comics a try. Dark Horse has done some really, really good ones. They're easy to grab on digital, or they have some omnibus editions. They've all been pretty fun so far. Anyway, that is my review of The Witcher Ronin Part 1 from Dark Horse Comics. Check it out, and good luck on the path.
Excellent. All right, we are going to jump over to the creator of Kid Slapshot, also the creator and writer of Jungle Drama, coming out this October from Keenspot Entertainment. We have Troy here talking about comic.
This is not porn.
It's not porn. This is not what I said that I was going to talk about, but I realized I read that thing a few months ago. This thing I'm reading now, or read last night. It's Archie Showcase Digest number 12, and it collects 8 issues of the Archie floppies that are the story of Archie and Valerie, that love story. Let's see if it shows up. Yeah, the Archie and Val love story there. So 8 issues starts out where Veronica has a party that she's got to plan for her father. She gets the Josie and the Pussycats to come and play at the party, but all of her friends are causing distractions and messing with people. So she invites her friends inside to come and play whatever their universe's version of Rock Band is on the video game. on their Z box. So they're all playing Rock Band, and then Josie and the Pussycats come in, and then they start playing Rock Band together. And it turns into a thing where suddenly they're on a TV show playing against each other, the Battle of the Band show, and then they're double headlining, traveling around as a concert tour together, the Archies and Josie and the Pussycats. But the part that I liked about it was that it had a sort of a love story in there with Archie and Valerie, and how Archie is always chasing after one girl or the other, but in this, all the other girls that he's not chasing are kind of crying in it because, oh my gosh, he seems like he actually is into this person, maybe even in love with it. And it culminates at the end with like a what if story. What if they got married, and that like the little Archie Valerie baby there playing with the little toy guitar, and I enjoyed the living tar out of this thing. It is good fun. And it's only $10 for like 8 issues of a comic, a full story, that according to the Archie encyclopedia is a classic story. So good stuff.
Now, you just talked about Archie. Is there anything that you could talk about Archie just a little bit more? Maybe something that, I don't know, relates to art that you do?
Oh, sorry. Missing the cue. Trying to raise some funds. Want to do some Archie exclusive covers. So I'm doing commissions. 9x12 inked bust drawings. Your favorite Archie character for $30, dressed as whatever you want him to be dressed as. And the funds will go towards doing Archie exclusive covers, which I'll have on my website and at conventions.
Nice.
Cool. And if anybody wanted an example of what that could look like, here are 2 examples right here with Archie as Frankenstein's monster, and you have Veronica as Wonder Woman.
Very
Cool.
cool.
Say it, Kevin. Say it, Kevin.
This is not porn. Or this is porn.
Anthony,
know
I have a
what
quick
is
little
what
update.
It is.
Kirby, what you talking about next?
It's like when you said the catchphrase earlier, a thing that twisted me up is every time Anthony would make a smart ass remark, I came across this Woodchuck Norris character and started throwing that in.
That's funny.
But yeah, I checked out Harley Quinn, Black, White, and Redder by DC Comics. They've been doing this with a lot of characters, bringing out these little 3-color, well, 1 color in black and white, or black, white, and gold, black, white, and red, all kinds of different little things with all the different characters. And they've been wonderful. And most of them have 3 stories. Some have twisted it up a little bit, but 3 complete, nice little stories in here. Well, you can't say complete with all of them, because if you read the Star Wars Darth Vader one, it's got some ongoing stories in it. But the first one in here is The Man of Steel, Steal. Writer by was Chip Zdarsky, artist Kevin McGuire, letterer and world design, and editor Chris Conroy. This was a really fun story of Harley and Ivy and a few other characters going to the Fortress of Solitude to steal what they can find from Superman's home. And yeah, they I don't want to ruin it. You're gonna have to read it to find out what they come across in here, what kind of goodies they find and stuff. There is one weapon that they come across. It just happens to turn you red if you shoot someone with it. So our gorilla, I'm guessing that's Gorilla Gru character in here, happens to get a new colored coat put on him. But yeah, it's a wonderful story if you like those characters and stuff, and a nice little twist on the Fortress of Solitude. Then we go into Push Through the Pain. Writer Leah Williams, artist Natasha Bustos, letterer Clayton Cowles, and editor Andrea Shea. This story gives you kind of that dark side look at the world of gymnastics. And Harley Quinn happens to be herself in her younger days as an up-and-coming gymnast, and the gym teacher is a not so nice character trying to over push her girls into doing what she wants them to do, and acts like it's a way of making them better, but in reality it's just going to ruin them in the long run. But yeah, this was a fun look at that. And then our final story was Get Gaggy. Writers Paul Scheer and Nick Giovanetti. Artist Tom Riley. Letterer Hassan Atzmain Elhu. And editor Matthew Levine. This story kind of gives a look at Harley Quinn dealing with a couple of the Joker's henchmen that she kind of grew up with in that pact and got used to, and they want to get Harley to become their new boss and work out on a mission of a diamond that they heard about that's coming into the museum. And apparently Catwoman's out of town, so they're like, well, she's not going to go after the diamond, so let's go after it, and this will fund us for our futures and all that. You got to read the story to what happens. But yeah, it's Harley hooking up with some Joker's baddies that she's dealt with quite a bit, and you just gotta see where it takes you. But these are a lot of fun. Another great black, white, red, or whatever you want to call it type mix-up, mashup of stories, and I hope they don't stop doing this and every character gets these. So they're doing a pretty good job so far with them.
Well, that'll be a great segue for something I will be previewing from IDW, because they are also following suit with the black, white, and red type of theme. But you'll have to hear about that in our next segment, which is the news.
And now the news.
Welcome to the previews preview. We will start with Marvel. These are the August catalogs for October and beyond. I don't have much detail to say, so I'm going to rapid fire these three. Captain Marvel #1 has a brand new ongoing series. I have to read the Dark Tempest issues that have come out between the last series and this series. Spider-Boy #1, which has a spin-off from the Amazing Spider-Man, so Dan Slott's writing more of that. And Sensational She-Hulk #1, starting with the same creative team, maybe an artist switch, but Rainbow Rowell and her team are coming back with more She-Hulk. Those are all titles I have yet to catch up with, so I didn't want to read any synopsis because I'm a little bit behind, but I'm still picking them up. Jump over to Kirby.
Got Capwolf and the Howling Commandos #1. When Captain America is transformed into a werewolf on the front lines of World War II, he'll need the help of the Howling Commandos to take down a band of Nazi cultists who intend to use supernatural forces to turn the tide of battle. But can Cap control the skeptical, jaded commandos when he can barely control himself? Yeah, Howling Commandos back. I'm happy.
Cool. Katie, anything from Marvel?
Sure. I have 2 Star Wars Epic collections. We have the New Republic Volume 7 and the Empire Volume 8. So in Empire Volume 8, they're covering the remaining books in the Empire series, and some Tag and Bank Are Dead, and some Star Wars tales, as well as Star Wars X-Wing Rogue Squadron 1.5. And then in the New Republic, we have a bunch of Boba Fett. We have some Jedi Academy stories, Star Wars Union, one of my favorites, and then Star Wars Chewbacca, which is a really good comic about a really sad topic. They are both $45. One is coming to stores in December, and Empire is coming in November. And then also from Marvel, I'm looking at It's Jeff, the Jeff verse, #1, to follow up on the other It's Jeff comics that we have read this year. Super fun, very cute, and I'd give this a shot as well.
Cool. That was it for my Marvel picks for outside of the ongoing. And I know the next thing I would pick is going to be on Kirby's list, so I'll just let you go ahead with your next Marvel.
Crypt of Shadows, 2023 #1 one-shot. Once more, as All Hallows Eve draws nigh, the dust-covered slab that seals shut the crypt, blocking out the sun and casting it forever in shadow, has creaked open to let the darkness loose to prey on the Marvel universe. But they mercenary or mage, guided guided by law or by rage, our heroes will face the terror, and they'd best pray their spines are sturdy enough for the job, or the crypt they find may well be their own. They did an awesome job with last year's, which I thought last year's was a 3-issue run, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Cool. Was that it for you, Katie, on Marvel?
Yep, did them all at once.
If you had anything left, Kirby, go for it.
Damn cheaters.
Sorry.
It looks like I'll be jumping on It's Jeff, and I assume Anthony will be too. So could always make that a pick if you want.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Marvel Zombies, Black, White, and Blood. Speak of
That's the
the
one.
devil. That's the one here. An all new era for Marvel Zombies. The undead plague starts here, and you know it won't stop until everyone's in its clutches. This first of 4 action-packed, utterly original, gloriously gory anthology issues features Daredevil, Spider-Man, Moon Knight, and many, many more Marvel heroes and villains beset by ever-growing zombie hordes. In a brutal, blood-stained world, can hope survive, or will creeping, gnawing, shambling horror win out at last? I am so happy they're doing a little fallback to Marvel Zombies.
Cool.
And then, surprise Anthony mentioning some of these. Moon Knight versus Werewolf by Night, Marvel Tales #1, one shot. If you know the past story from Moon Knight 1980, number 2930, they're kind of doing a fallback to that. So we're getting that. And it comes with Jack sets Mark, or no, Moon Knight 52 to 53. Thought there was something a little new in here.
Yeah, I think when they do the Marvel Tales, I think they're all reprints. So yeah,
Yep.
I've read those ones.
All right, and other than that, it looks, yeah, that looks like it for Marvel for me.
Sounds good. We will jump over to DC. We can start with Katie if you have anything from DC Comics.
I do not have anything new, but if we pick something for the club, I'd be happy to give it a shot.
Alrighty, I will start off with Teen Titans Go to the Library. This is by Art and Franco. All Raven wanted was a little peace and quiet, and the local library seemed like the perfect place to find that. But her teammates know that all her tricks, and when they catch up to her, all heck breaks loose. All Raven wanted was a little peace and quiet, and the local library seemed like the perfect place to find that. This is an advance pre-order because I believe the book is coming out in January or February. But Art and Franco are returning to the world of the Titans. They did the Tiny Titans, but now they're jumping into the Teen Titans. Go to the Library, an original graphic novel. So check that out. Kirby?
I got Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong #1. Heroes and monsters collide in this crossover event of the year. The cataclysmic crossover event of the year is here as the DC Universe clashes with Legendaries, Monsterverse in Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. Clark Kent is enjoying a night off with a very important dinner planned with his girlfriend, Lois Lane, when the entire city shudders under the weight of the monstrous Godzilla. who emerges from the bay. What started as a routine clash between the Justice League and the Legion of Doom takes a dangerous turn when the wall between worlds is breached. With Godzilla, Kong, and the Monsterverse emerging on DC's Earth, what ensues will be a brawl of unprecedented scale and destruction from acclaimed writer Brian Buccellato and best-selling artist Christian Duke. I'm kind of curious what they do with that.
All I had was that one for DC, so if you had anything else, feel free to throw those out there.
You guys should have told me. Actually looks like that actually might be it for me for DC. Yep, the rest of them are ongoings.
Sounds good. We'll jump into the giant preview catalogs with all the independent publishers and merchandising, apparel, all of that fun stuff. I was going to save this one for Troy, but he had to take off between the break here. Jungle Drama, issue number 1. What do you get when two beautiful jungle girls set their sights on the same dreamy jungle hunk? You get drama. Jungle drama. What stunts will these two beauties pull to get the guy out of their collective dreams? And furthermore, is he even worth the trouble? Tarzan meets Riverdale in this fun romp through swinging single life in the jungle. Includes a bonus pull-out poster. If you are either listening or watching the Crimson Cowl Comic Club, check out the episode that came out right before this one because it is a creator interview with Troy Dungara, Eric Marshall, and Danny Harrell. All three of them had created this jungle drama book. We dive into an hour-long episode going into how the issue came to be. We see examples of the interior art, and we see work that all the creators have done in the past and in the future, promoting other things that are coming out. So a giant episode that is just dedicated to Jungle Drama number 1. And this is your reminder to check it out. Pre-order through your local comic shops as well as KeenSpotShop.com. That's Jungle Drama number 1. Kirby?
Alice Cooper, Volume 2, Number 1 by Dynamite Entertainment. It's got too long a thing to read, but basically, if you happen to catch Volume 1 or didn't catch Volume 1, Alice Cooper basically battles demons and just does an awesome job of it. I talked about the trade on one of our, I'm pretty sure I talked about that on the Crimson Cowl Comic Club probably about a year ago, but yeah, they did a really fun job on how they twisted it up with the demons and the rock and roll and everything. So if you like Alice Cooper, check that out.
Cool. Katie?
Over at Dynamite, we have the Best of Red Sonja hardcover. This is, of course, by various artists and writers, but the cover's by Jenny Frison, a club favorite. Apparently, we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of Red Sonja this year. So it's covering her earliest appearances in Marvel, with the incredible talents of Roy Thomas and Frank Thorne, to her contemporary series with work by Michael Avon Oeming, Gal Simone. So also covering some of the Dynamite series. It's going to be $50 and it is releasing in October. I started reading Red Sonja as a joke, but it's actually pretty good. So I'm excited for this as a good way to get the best of the last 50 years. Check it out.
Also from Keen Spot, we have Happy Astronaut number 2. Happy and Half continue to scour the cosmos high and low, searching for the pilfered parts of Half. I'm not going to go into details because this is issue number 2. Issue number 1, we're just 2 Wednesdays away. I got myself an advance copy here. Happy Astronaut number 1 coming out in the last Wednesday of August. You can still order it through KeenSpotShop.com as well as pre-ordering issue number 2. And what's awesome about issue number 2, beyond Matt and Matt from Happy Astronaut and Cartoonist by Night coming out with their first publisher published comic book, is that I have my first art pinup that is going to be in issue number 2 of Happy Astronaut. They reached out to me, said they had some space for a full page art pinup, art that I did on Cartoonist by Night, all about Happy Astronaut. And so that's going to be there. So unless Art Baltazar does a very surprise, catch up with a couple of his self-published comics, this should be the first published beyond like a fan art type of thing as a published artist. So Happy Astronaut #2. There are 2 cover options. Third, I think there's an incentive there through keenspotshop.com and some online retailers. But yeah, I'm pretty pumped up. This is going to be a big deal. So I've got several copies ordered and I can't wait to check it out. Happy Astronaut #1 and #2 from Keenspot. Kirby?
Army of Darkness Forever by Dynamite Entertainment. After nearly 3 decades of ashtastic action, Dynamite is upping the ante with the ultimate Army of Darkness comic book series. Picking up immediately after the events of Army of Darkness, Ash chainsaws his way through the Techno Army of Darkness in 2093 and defends the sacred Isles of the S-Mart in 1993. What? How? Meanwhile, in the distant past, his lady love Sheila fights off a rising evil at Castle Kandar. So it's like Army of Darkness, Ash, anything, I don't care. Just give it to me.
Katie?
At Image, we have Saga Volume 11 trade paperback. This is one of my favorite series in comics. I did try it in single issues, found out that trade works better for me, so I'm really pumped to get this next volume in the series. Of course, it's done by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. It will release on November 15th for $17. Check out Saga number 11, pre-ordered, and 1 through 10 available now.
Also from Keenspot, Rebel Girls #2 by Danny Harrell and Robert Ahmad. After the blood-splattering events at the state fair, Barry tries to convince the girls that they need to sign with him for their own protection. Meanwhile, the Dark Lord grows impatient and sends unwelcome reinforcements to speed things along. This October, we live and we burn in Rebel Girls, Heroes, Hobos, and Harlots Part 2. Danny Harrell, also part of the creative team for Jungle Drama. So all awesome stuff on page 358 of the previous catalog, all representing Jungle Drama, Happy Astronaut, and Rebel Girls. Keenspotshop.com. Kirby?
Frank Frazetta's Beyond the Grave #1 one-shot by Opus Comics. Citizens are horrified when a bloodthirsty monster crawls out from the dirt to wreak havoc and taste revenge. Justin Jordan and Sebastian Cabral serve up big scares in this one shot. I kind of want to see what Frank Frazetta did with the zombie lore and just see where it goes.
Katie?
Over in the toys section, apparently you can get a Funko Pop of Kikkoman soy sauce. For $12, you can add the beloved condiment to your collection. That's Funko Pops presenting Kikkoman soy sauce. Check it out.
Over at a publisher that I have to look up here because it's in the Independents and the headline is not right above it. We are talking about this is from Dark Horse. We're looking at Midnight Show. From the creators of The Sixth Gun and Manor Black comes this new supernatural horror series about monsters of the silver screen coming to life and wreaking havoc on a small town. Midnight Show #1. A bunch of awesome looking covers there, and I love the concept. And I'm going to check out Midnight Show #1. Kirby?
Also from Dark Horse, Giant Robot Hellboy #1. Hellboy is kidnapped and hooked up to a massive mecha Hellboy for a mission on a mysterious faraway island. But the island might just put up a fight of its own. Inspired by Mignola's viral hit pencil drawings from Mike Mignola, the Quarantine Sketchbook. Giant Robot Hellboy gets his own story in this 3-part miniseries from Mignola and longtime Hellboy artist Duncan Fegredo.
Cool. Katie?
I think that's all for me. We'll definitely be checking out some new club picks, though.
Cool. Following the whole black, white, and red, and blue, and green, and all of that stuff, IDW has My Little Pony Black, White, and Blue #1.
Oh,
Sorry, every pony. It seems our printer ran out of pink, purple, yellow, green, red, and well, all the colors except black, white, and blue. What to do with all this blue? Oh, drum roll, please. In Misty's first comic appearance, everybody's favorite blue pony is in the Maritime Bay for a sleepover with the main five. But when every pony wakes up, all the color is gone. It kind of looks like Violet and Sky's favorite old TV show, Betwitched. At least the years it was in black and white. But every pony can see the blue for some reason. Determined to make the best out of a gloomy situation, Vi and Sky put together a plan to spread cheer. Meanwhile, Izzy helps the distraught Misty see the beauty in messy situations using the power of unicycling. Join us for a magical one shot of color calamity before returning to your regularly scheduled programs. My Little Pony, Black, White, and Blue. I was excited once I saw that the main cover was done by Agnes Garbaska, who I got to meet at, I was going to call it Wizard World, but it's Fan Expo Chicago now. I will probably show off some of that stuff in future episodes, but I saw that announcement there. And yep, I love My Little Pony books anyways. And the idea of the black, white, and blue, I'm definitely down for that. So check that out.
thank you
Yeah,
for
I
bringing
never
that
thought
up. That also looks good.
I never thought I'd say it, but yes, that will be the second My Little Pony book that I will own. So,
So I think we might have.
Topic.
I think yep, because I don't think we've had any My Little Pony, so I'm gonna make a note of that. Just so I remember to share it with the rest of the club. Cool. We'll talk about that in October as a club discussion. All
and
right, Kirby.
the other thing I got is Hack Slash Back to School #1 by Image Comics. Slasher hunter Casey Hack is only just getting used to her man-monster partner Vlad when she's drawn into a new case involving a murderous bunny mascot, dead kids, and an entire squad of maladjusted teenage serial killer hunters. A completely new chapter in the beloved long-running series that's perfect for new readers and old fans alike, just in time for Halloween. I was so happy to see them do a new one for Halloween.
Nice.
From Distillery, we have one of the first big comic releases, Gone #1. New series debut from Jock, who is writing and drawing a creator-owned project for the first time. Jock, we've talked about, I know myself and Jim have talked about his Batman work and everything.
Yeah.
On an impoverished and distant planet where menial workers scratch out a living resupplying starships, the best place to be is gone. And that's exactly where this 13-year-old ABI wants to be, along with her street tough friend. Yep, now it says Abby. It said ABI in all caps, and now it says ABI as in Abby. Stows away on a colossal luxury space liner for a better life. This all I really need to see was Jock and first creator own thing, and the work is the cover art of the print catalog here. An awesome spread, just kind of showing just the not giving too much away, but I'm here for it. Support Jock and check out what this new publisher Distillery has to offer. That is Gone #1.
Headless Horseman Halloween Annual 2023 #1 one-shot by Dark Horse Comics. Boils, ghouls, vampires, monsters, and creatures of all kinds. Welcome. Take a seat, go on, fill the aisles, relax your fangs, and sit with us for a while. Join us in a macabre and magical journey through all the haunts and spooks that keep you up at night, for here we reveal in the darkness and present to you a chilling, nay, petrifying experience as the Headless Horseman presents a collection of 5 terrifying tales to warm up your cold soul. Hurry up now, you won't want to keep them waiting. Collection of tales for Halloween, that's for me.
Cool. We have a spotlight on Hockey Girl Loves Drama Boy, a graphic novel from Faith Aaron Hicks, who I've talked about many a times. And as I was reminding myself of like Pumpkinheads and Ride On, there was another result that popped up and reminded me I have one sitting on the shelf to read of hers yet. So I often pick up Faith Aaron Hicks books. It should have been a night of triumph for Alex's hockey team, but when her mean girl team captain Lindsay goes after Alex with her cruelest dig yet, Alex loses what remains of her self control and punches Lindsay out. Before she knows it, their coach is dragging Alex off Lindsay, and her invitation to the Canada National Women's U18 team's summer camp is on the line. Alex is shaken. She needs to learn how to control this anger, and she is sure Ezra, the popular and poised theater kid from her grade, is the answer. So she asks for his help, but as they hang out and start to get closer, Alex learns that there is more to Ezra than the cool front he puts on, and maybe this friendship could become something more. But yeah, once again, it's got a funny title, Hockey Girl Loves Drama Boy. But once I saw the Faith Aaron Hicks, then I just pretty much put it in the cart right away because she is a guaranteed creator for me. So check out Hockey Girl Loves Drama Boy.
Michael Mouse, #1 one shot by Floating World Comics.
Yeah.
Mitch Lemire's Michael Mouse follows the story of David Duck as he gets roped into completing one final job by his old pals Goonie and the titular Michael Mouse. Betrayal, abandonment, and murder abound in this action-packed drama. It's a story so fraught with catastrophe and angst that you'll forget you're reading a cartoon. Bringing these old Harvey comic style cartoons and stuff back and giving them that adult murderous look to it, they've been so fun.
Yeah, that one is definitely on my list as well because I saw that and I'm like, okay, it's a Mickey Mouse Golden book. I'll turn to page. I'm like, wait a minute, Michael Mouse and another duck and like all this stuff, and I'm reading it. I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous and awesome.
Oh no!
And I think the only other one that I had to point out, well, there's always the Archie stuff going on, but there's one that you're probably getting to that's Usagi related. So I'm on board for that one, but I'll leave that for you. So feel free to exhaust whatever's left with your indie picks. So
Okay, I'll just give a mention out. There's an Al Capone vampire hunter that this month is terrible for me. I'm trying to break down a $400 order to an order that I can afford. They got way too many things this month. So I'm going to probably wait for trades on a lot of them. But yeah, that was one I got to give a mention out to. Space Usagi Yokai Hunter, #1 one shot by Dark Horse Comics. Fans of legendary swordsman and wanderer Usagi Yojimbo has enjoyed countless tales told by his exciting adventures, tales told over hundreds, perhaps thousands of years. Someone in the far future enjoys another classic adventure featuring the rabbit Ronin. And Stan Sakai's Space Usagi universe returns with a unique new story. And as far as I know, this is a teaser one shot, and we're going right into a Space Usagi run according to the Comics Counseling Couples podcast that had Stan Sakai and his wife on.
The Comic Book Couples Counseling podcast.
I knew I'd screwed it up. But yeah, we've heard lots of good things from him about that, and next year being the 40th anniversary of Usagi and the Turtles. So hopefully we're going to get some really good things out of that.
We'll have to watch out if we ever do a mashup of the Comic Book Couples Counseling podcast and the Crimson Cowl Comic Club, because then it'd just be CCBCCCBBB.
Yep. Street Fighter fans, there's a Street Fighter Omega coming out. There's lots of Tales from the Grave, EC style horror, multi-story things coming out. And then we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Saturday Morning Adventures Halloween Special #1 one shot by IDW Publishing. As Halloween approaches, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles must face their fears when a powerful and mysterious being challenges them to prove their mettle in a nightmarish test of bravery. Meanwhile, Shredder has an otherworldly encounter of his own when he summons an ancient spirit to gain a greater understanding of the powerful weapon he seeks to reforge, only to discover that some forces are beyond even his control. Don't miss this double-sized spooky special of Saturday Morning Adventures. There's a Transformers new run starting Volume 5 for Transformers fans. This one's a hard one for me because I want 5 blank covers at least, that I want sketch covers so I can do each Dracula for my wife since she's a huge Dracula collector. But they have Universal Monsters Dracula #1 by Image Comics. Miniseries premiere. The biggest names in comics resurrect the most iconic monsters. That's James Tynion IV and Martin Simmons. The Department of Truth when Dr. John Seward admits a strange new patient into his asylum, the madman tells stories of a demon who has taken residence next door. But as Dr. Seward attempts to apply logic to the impossible, his surrogate daughter, Lucy, begins to fall under the spell of the twisted Count Dracula. So they might actually make the story fun for once, for me. But other than that, there is a Vampirella magazine. They're doing a reprint of that with some extra little goodies in it. And the last thing I will mention is Vampirella Dead Flowers #1 by Dynamite Entertainment. When her age-old nemesis finally gives up the ghost, Vampirella is lured to his rural Gothic estate of Brookhaven to hear the reading of his last will and testament. There she meets the manor staff, the prurient assistant, the wild-eyed groundskeeper, and his pensive young daughter, and the sinister and enigmatic Mr. Frey. Expecting a trap, Vampirella and her young companion are not disappointed, but they also get more than they bargained for in this thrilling adventure. Yeah, another new Vampirella run. They've been putting them out like crazy lately. This one sounds fun.
Yeah, and going back on Transformers and Dracula from Image Comics. Image is no longer in the giant catalog, so I had those on my list too. But I know David's getting Transformers with Daniel Warren Johnson jumping on. So yeah, I second those titles as well. All right, that is going to do it then for this episode. In order to make it out just in time for Svengoolie to show up on our screens, crimsoncowl.com for info on original webcomics, Crimson Cowl Comic Club on YouTube, right here for the exclusive video version of the podcast. If you want to listen to it, or you already are, you're doing that through iTunes. The Crimson Cowl, all one word, on Instagram, Crimson Cowl Comic Club on iTunes and YouTube. Just subscribe, like, rate, review, all of that fun stuff. Crimson Cowl Comic Club at yahoo.com if you want to reach out with any questions, maybe future letters page questions, any comments, send them over there. Kirby runs Under the Cowl of MS. Subscribe to that wherever you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube, because there's a ton of stuff going on. I have an artist hobby account on Facebook and Instagram, Anthony Latch, LAATSCH, as well as Cartoonist by Night on YouTube. Subscribe to that. And at the time of this recording, and hopefully give or take the release, September 2nd is Milwaukee MightyCon. Myself and David will be there representing Crimson Cowl Media and selling some merchandise. I'll be selling some original art sketch cards, as well as some art prints, making my debut as a tabled artist over at MightyCon in Milwaukee, September 2nd. Check out the socials for all the details. And yep, that's going to be a ton of fun. Can't wait to check it out. And we have a Crimson Cowl Comic Club and Crimson Cowl Media bookmark that is going to debut at that convention. And obviously everybody here at the club will get their bookmark if you aren't able to attend. I've got plenty of them in the mail. So that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you for checking it out. Check out the Jungle Drama special creator interview episode before this, and tell a friend about the Crimson Cowl Comic Club and the Crimson Cowl Media family. That is going to do it for this episode. This whole time, I've been the greatest legend no one has ever heard of.
I've been swinging over fire and ice with the berserker known as Harley Quinn.
And I've been eating ramen with the Ronin.
To be continued.
Thank you, Slimer.